Well, I just came in from a walk a few minutes ago. I'm getting ready for a Grand Canyon hike in a couple of weeks. We're going to go down to Phantom Ranch and back up. My son, my daughter, and Hart, and some other good folk. While I was on the walk, I was thinking about my grandfather Ed. It came to me because I was thinking about doing this video cast here and wanted it to be edifying. So, with my strange mind, I thought about my grandfather, Ed Lane. Now, Ed was a wonderful grandfather. He's gone on now, of course. But he left us kids with some pretty good understandings. Ed only went through 8th grade to my knowledge and recollection, but he was a very bright man. He had his own dry cleaning business at one time. He and my grandmother ran a restaurant for a while, a restaurant grocery store. And Ed was a master machinist at a Callaway Mills down there in a little town in Georgia. He got tired of that at one point and decided to open up his own barbershop. So I don't know where he learned to cut hair or if he just practiced on the first customers that came, but he had a pretty good business. He had a table outside under a big chinaberry tree, and he and the men would play dominoes there when he wasn't cutting hair. He did a pretty good business, He had a big garden out back and so on. But I remember Ed, we were sitting one time outside the little barbershop house there and on the swing glider, and he said, do you want to see a flying saucer? Well, I said, sure. Well, Ed was drinking a cup of coffee with a saucer under the cup, and he sent that thing flying across the road into the cornfield. My grandmother, she was accustomed to such shenanigans, and she had her usual comment, which was, "Now, Ed," and he responded as usual. He would say, "Okay," and we went over and got that saucer out of the cornfield. It was the first Frisbee I ever saw in my life. Well, Ed would ask us kids some questions that we never would get in school, and I think it helped prepare me for graduate school later on. I'm sure it did. One of his questions to us was, how long is a piece of string? And when we first heard that, we were perplexed. We didn't get those kind of questions from anybody else. Of course, the answer was, which Ed had to tell us eventually, twice as long as from the middle to the end. Well, that put us in a whole new world, that opened it up quite tremendously. We were sunk from then on in terms of the kinds of things we started doing with the English language. Of course, a companion question to that, which we caught on to pretty quickly, was how far can you go into the woods? And the answer was only halfway, because then you're coming out. Ed had a number of such things, which I won't go into at this moment. Some of them might not be appropriate for the viewing audience. But I remember he had a rooster, and we lived kind of on the outskirts of town, kind of like the suburbs, I guess you'd call it, of that little Georgia town there. And we'd have town kids come to visit, and the rooster that was there, that was Ed's, or Ed was the rooster's, was kind of mean. It would peck you. So I'd get kind of concerned about the kids, and they wouldn't listen to me. They'd always go for that rooster. And I'd say, "Grandfather, what am I going to do? I can't tell them anything." And my grandfather said, "Yep." He says, "That's just the way it is. Some people, you just have to let the rooster peck them."